Hey there Blue Mages, Liam here, and welcome back to Blue Academy. In our previous video, we constructed our active set for the DPS role. Today, we're going to talk about how we pick spells for the healer role on Blue Mage. Once we've got our core spells, we want to add our actual healing spells. The three spells for that are Palm Cure, Gobskin, and Exuviation. Now, what do each one of these do? Well, Palm Cure is our standard, just run-of-the-mill single target heal. It's a pretty quick cast. We can actually weave with this, and it deals 500 potency of healing when we're under the effect of the healing mimic. So, you can see here, me just casting this, I'm getting just about 8,000 healing per Palm Cure cast. And at level 60, I have a total health pool of 20,000. So this is actually pretty good. And we're never going to run out of mana just chain casting this. We have, only a 200 mana cost here, so it's very unlikely we will actually run out of mana here, and this is pretty good. Our next spell is Gobskin, and this is an AoE shield effect. Now, under Healer Mimic, this does 250 potency, so if we're hitting 8 Blue Mages, this is effectively 2,000 potency. This is also a pretty quick cast. We can't really consistently weave with this though, so I wouldn't try that. And this is also only 200 mana. Now, if you're doing raid content, I would recommend just trying to keep this up as much as possible. It could be helpful to assign one healer to mostly be on the Gobskin duty and make sure that they're keeping Gobskin up whenever possible. But this really helps for certain things like phase transitions and just mitigating that AoE damage that, you're going to be taking. Our last spell here is Exuviation, and this one's kind of special. So this does 300 potency healing, so if I cast this, you can see we're gaining about 5,000 health or so per cast. That's pretty decent too. This is also only 200 mana, so if we compare that to White Wind, which is our sort of heavy hitting heal that, will heal us for a lot if we're high on health, this is way less mana. And we're getting, about 1/4 of the potency. So, when possible, we want to use this for AoE healing. Now, the issue with this is that it's only a 6 yalm radius. So that means it's 3 yalms in front of us, to the side, etc. And that's pretty small. That's effectively melee range. If we look at Sharpened Knife, for example, that has a 3 yalm range. So Exuviation has effectively the same range as Sharpened Knife in each direction out from us. And that makes it kind of difficult to use. Now, it is still really good because it has this effect of removes one detrimental effect from all nearby party members. There are certain fights, such as Brute Justice, where you might end up taking some, burning damage or something. And for that, you'll want to have Exuviation so that you can remove that debuff. The next spell we're going to add is going to be one of our Off Guard or Peculiar Light. Now, this depends on the content. Normally, I would actually recommend that the healers are going to grab Off Guard. They're going to be at range more frequently than the DPS, so I think it's more helpful to have the healers take Off Guard. If we're running dungeons, grab Peculiar Light. The AoE effect, I think, makes this more powerful. But, this, you don't have to be too picky about this. If you're trying to min-max this, work it out with your raid group and see who's taking what, just so you don't have any overlap, or so you don't have too much overlap. Next up, we're going to grab our filler spells for Physical, Astral, and Umbral. Now, to be quite honest, Healer doesn't actually get that much time to DPS in a lot of the raid content, so it's very unlikely that we'll even be able to take full effect of these. But I'm just going to grab these 3 here as my spells. So I've grabbed Sonic Boom for Astral, Protean Wave for Umbral, and Abyssal Transfixion for Physical. So now we're left with 3 spots, and what should we put here? Now, I would consider these to be our 3 utility spots, and we might even need to make room for more, but we'll start with this. Now, I think a healer casting Condensed Libra is usually going to be our best bet. Like I said, healers don't actually get that much time to DPS themselves, but by putting up Condensed Libra, they're contributing a lot to the raid's damage. Now, we can also grab things like level 5 Death if we're doing some level 50 content. That's pretty helpful. Frog's Legs might be needed if we're doing Brute Justice, for example, and we need to taunt the enemy. Avail if we're going to be using the Avail strat for Earthshakers on T13. Or we could even go as basic as saying, let's grab Moon Flute if we're going to do a Moon Flute opener. Some fights allow the healer to do that. And maybe even Final Sting. And if we're going to do this, I would recommend even just dropping one of these filler spells to then grab Whistle. So now this is our full Final Sting combo. Now, it's not always going to be the case that healers are able to get this Final Sting off. Sometimes stopping healing even just for a few seconds is going to be pretty dangerous. So we're not always going to be able to do this. So for that reason, I didn't actually include this as any of our core spells. Now, if we're just interested in running dungeons, almost none of this advice applies. So here, I'm just going to remove pretty much all of these. And if we're running dungeons, we're going to want to grab level 5 Death or Launcher. Depends on what we're running. If we're able to kill things immediately with Death, that's going to be our best bet. Otherwise, we're going to grab Launcher. Could also grab Missile, and this is sort of the same effect, an instant death effect. We'll want to grab an AoE spell, just a filler, and I usually recommend Electrogenesis for this, just a little splash damage. You can focus down one target, it's pretty nice. Ram's Voice also has some utility in dungeons. You can freeze enemies, and that's pretty powerful. Pretty much take whatever you want for dungeons. You don't have to be as picky here. So if we just grab, let's say, just our Electrogenesis, we still have 5 spell slots remaining, so we can sort of fill those with whatever we want. Now, one of the biggest weaknesses of Healer as a Blue Mage is that we don't have any OGCD or off global cooldown abilities. And these are the sorts of things where, say I'm playing Scholar, for example, if I really need to, I can quickly put up like an X-Cog on myself or something. And I can weave that in with my spells, there's no real delay. But as a Blue Mage, we don't really have that option. Really, the closest thing we have is doing something like a Swift Cast Palm Cure. But even that's not really that good. So for that reason, I really recommend putting the tank on your focus target, and then having a keybind to quickly target that focus so that you can keep switching and healing. Even better, and what I do a lot in raids as a healer, is I'll just not target anything other than the tank, except for when I'm weaving spells. So I'll maybe cast a Palm Cure, then quickly switch and do a Feather Rain, and, Palm Cure, Glass Dance, Palm Cure, and then some Serpanakas or something like that. I think it's kind of tough to take your eyes off the tank for pretty much any amount of time. Tanks are pretty brittle as Blue Mage, so they're going to be taking a lot more damage than you would expect, but we do actually have the raw healing output to deal with that. So that's pretty much it for our healer lesson for today. We're pretty much just going to be taking Palm Cure, Gobskin, and Exuviation, one of Peculiar Light or Off Guard, a filler spell such as Electrogenesis, or multiple filler spells for the different Libras if we can fit it, and then utility spells for whatever content that we're working on. Aside from that sort of optimization, there's not really a whole lot of optimization that can be made for Blue Mage healing. That's not to say that the role is easy or simple in any way, it's actually quite difficult in my opinion. Now, I actually main healer at high level content, and I find Blue Mage healing to be quite tough. Blue Mages have such a small health pool since they only have the caster health pool, and it's really hard to keep everyone alive at all times. You really need to be on your toes to be a healer as a Blue Mage, but with practice, I'm sure that you can handle it. If you have any further questions about playing healer as a Blue Mage, or any questions in general, please feel free to contact me. I'm always happy to help. Otherwise, good luck stinging.